this House has considered the provision of children's playgrounds? Minister Rishi Sunak.
Well, thank you, Mr Gates. It's a pleasure to serve under your chairmanship this morning, and can I congratulate the Honourable Member for Nottingham East on securing this very important debate. And I particularly enjoyed listening to him, and I thought he made very thoughtful contributions, as did the members intervening as well. Obviously, the breadth of my portfolio at the Ministry of Housing, Communities and Local Government is such that I have the privilege of discussing a wide range of areas which affect people's daily lives. And I'm very much grateful to the Honourable gentleman for raising the important issue of playgrounds. I think he spoke very passionately about these areas and the way that they bring communities together and promote health and fitness and an appreciation of the outdoors. And like him, I'm the father of not one but two daughters, and someone who enjoys sports myself. I very much recognise the value of having safe, welcoming, open public spaces. Now, ensuring playgrounds, and indeed parks and other open spaces too, are available and accessible is in the first instance the responsibility of individual councils, local authorities, as I think my honourable friend recognises. I wanted to say a few words about how my department is supporting the sector in this area, touch on resources, which he was right to talk about, and hopefully that will be of some interest to the honourable member, and then also draw on the work that is being done across government. As he acknowledged, there are other departments who have a stake in this, and they are doing good work, which we should bring to the fore today. Well, starting first of all with the question of resources for local government, I would be the first to say that local authorities have done a commendable job over the past few years, delivering high-quality services from adult social care to children's services, to improving our roads and our public spaces and playgrounds in what has been, no doubt, a difficult financial climate. And local authorities should be commended for that. Yes, I'd be delighted to.
What I think is a really worthwhile debate this morning. I just wonder if you will join me in commending South Gloucestershire Council, who have just announced in the last couple of weeks that they're going to be investing £460,000 into green spaces, a number of different parks and playgrounds around Yate and Chipping Sodbury especially, which will make a huge difference to the community. And what if I can put on record my thanks to two local campaigners who have constantly raised the issue, Sonia Williams and Matt Lewis. So one of the ministers will congratulate South Gloucestershire Council.
Yeah, I would be delighted to congratulate my honourable friend's council, and I think he brings up an example of communities working together with their local authority, in spite of a difficult overall climate, to find creative solutions that will benefit their community. And I think there are examples all over the country of that happening, and I'm very grateful to him for bringing that example to us today, and certainly send my congratulations to all those involved in what is, I think, a positive outcome there in his area. In terms of resources for the sector overall, the recent local government finance settlement ensured that the industry or the sector will have £45.6 billion in the next financial year, rising from £44.3 billion in the financial year that we are just finishing. Nottingham itself will have over £500 million in core spending power over the spending the spending review period, the last 2 years of which we're entering. And of course, it is for the council, whether Nottingham or indeed my honourable friend's case, to decide how best to prioritise their resources amongst all the competing claims that they will have. The settlement is the third of a 4-year deal, as I mentioned, which was accepted by 97% of councils, including my honourable friend's local area, and I'm glad that they have benefited from the certainty and stability that knowledge of income over the medium term has brought. This is something that local authorities have asked for. It allows them to think strategically, and indeed, in my honourable friend's area, the Nottingham Open Spaces Forum, which I know he is aware of, is one such example of that longer-term strategic thinking, and it highlights the point that local areas themselves are best placed to decide how to use their resources to promote the causes that their constituents care most about. Yes?
Thank the Minister for giving way. I just wonder if he is aware of the former CLG committee's inquiry into parks, of which I was a part of, and the response from the public in that inquiry was absolutely overwhelming. One of the biggest public responses that the CLG Select Committee had received on any inquiry that it had undertaken. Does he think that that is a sign that parks should be much higher up the government's agenda?
Well, I thank the Honourable Member from Great Grimsby for her work on that Select Committee, and I read that Select Committee report when I first got this job a few weeks ago. It was a very, very good report, and as hopefully she is pleased to see the government responded, I think, very positively, my predecessor from Nuneaton, to the recommendations that her committee made, and indeed I'll come on to those shortly, especially with regard to the Parks Action Group and how do we take the work forward that the committee recommended. The Honourable Member for Nottingham East spoke a lot about children's needs, and he is absolutely right. There is more to do around tackling rising obesity levels and mental illness amongst our young people. And I am pleased to say that there is activity going on across government in this area. I think we all want our children to be healthy and active, no matter what their background. And that's why it is important that we focus as a priority on what's happening in schools. Having spoken to colleagues in the Department for Education, I'm delighted to tell the Chamber today that the funding for the primary PE and school sports premium has doubled to £320 million a year from 2017. And that will be a huge help in enabling schools to drive further improvements to sports provision. Also, an extra £100 million has been promised to schools through the Healthy Pupils Capital Fund. That's going to be a one-off fund funded from the soft drinks industry levy, and that money will go to improving playgrounds and sports facilities across the school estate. And last week, the Department for Education announced the allocation of almost £1.5 billion in the forthcoming financial year to maintain and improve the condition of the entire education estate, including for their outdoor spaces. But as the Honourable Member noted, it is about much more than just funding. So by making physical education a compulsory subject at all 4 key stages in the new national curriculum, I think the government is helping to prioritise exercise and well-being. We all know that the positive experience of sport at a young age can create a lifelong habit of participation. It's important to foster that in young children. It's also important that our children have role models that they can look up to and can inspire them to get fit and keep active. And I know recently Darcy Bussell has been speaking about this particular issue, and my constituent, Sir Ian Botham, has been a long-time advocate of children's exercise and health and fitness. Now, the Honourable Member made the important point that there should be a voice for the parks and green spaces sector, a dedicated, a national voice that champions and advocates for it. And as I think he said, he was aware of the Parks Action Group, which was established by my predecessor last year. And I would like to think that it is exactly that voice that he has called for. So, one of my takeaways from today is perhaps we need to shout a little bit louder about the important work that the Parks Action Group is doing. And as the Honourable Member for Great Grimsby knows, this is one of the recommendations coming out of the report that the government acted on swiftly. And that group draws on the expertise of a range of partners from the park sector and a range of government departments. And just to go through a list of some of the people involved, it's the Association of the Public Service of Excellence, the Parks Alliance, Fields in Trust, National Federation of Parks and Green Spaces, Keep Britain Tidy, Natural England, Groundwork, the National Trust, the Heritage Lottery Fund, and bodies representing local and parish councils. Now, I go through the list because I'm especially pleased that such a wide range of organisations have committed their time and energy to work in partnership with government to raise the profile of the parks agenda. And, I would like to say to the honourable members present today, I don't intend for the Parks Action Group to just be a talking shop. It aims to take forward not only the recommendations of the Select Committee report from last year, but also deal with the wider issues facing the park sector. And the members represent the views of the local communities with whom they work. And I think through their contribution, we can ensure that all the issues surfaced today, and indeed many others, are properly raised, represented, and then actioned. The group will, in the first instance, identify effective and deliverable activities which can be undertaken to secure a better future for our green spaces for generations to come. It's going to focus on 6 immediate priorities for parks: standards, funding, vision and value of parks, empowering communities, knowledge and skills, and increasing usage. I think these priorities pick up a number of the very pertinent points raised by the Honourable Member, and I'd be delighted to give way.
Well, I'm very grateful to hear about the action plan, and it is an important organisation. But I would emphasise again play and playgrounds, the need for a structured physical facilities within those parks. If you can make sure that that is what part and parcel of one of those 6 objectives, I would feel a lot happier.
I can absolutely give the honourable member that reassurance, and I was going to come on to talk about that in a minute. But yes, he's right to raise that, and I will ensure that transcript of this debate, and indeed his particular point about playgrounds and play, is given to all the members of the committee. So as they develop their work, this is uppermost in their mind. The Parks Action Group, I think, will also be exploring how to improve equality of access across all ages and social groups. And I think we all recognise that parks can play an important role in strengthening community cohesion, combating loneliness, as the Honourable Member for Henley made, I think, a very important point, and indeed promoting integration between diverse groups. The Honourable Member for Nottingham East made reference to the community's integrated community strategy last week, and that highlighted how the use of shared areas, especially by young people, can bring communities and neighbourhoods together. And we, as a department, we welcome views and proposals within that green paper and engage with individuals and communities and businesses and faith groups to help deliver those specific proposals. With regard to loneliness that my honourable friend from Henley mentioned, I'm a member of the Intergovernmental Group on Loneliness, the Joe Cox Commission that was set up in memory of Joe, and the Prime Minister's championed this as a priority of hers. There was a meeting on this just last week where we talked about the value of green spaces to combating loneliness and making sure that open spaces will feature heavily in the strategy that the Commission produces. The group will also consider the various funding models that exist to support parks and green spaces and share that information with the sector to support future sustainability. And there are examples of innovation happening, particularly, I think, up in Newcastle in the North East, which I'm keen to visit reasonably soon to explore what they're doing. And I look forward to presenting an update to Parliament on the progress of the Parks Action Group in due course, and will encourage all members to support their work. Yes?
I just wonder when the strategy group is due to produce a report, because I wonder how the parents in the Six Hills area of Great Grimsby will feel about the outcomes of that and how quickly they can start to see the results in their play area.
Well, the Parks Action Group has met recently this year, and I'm due to attend the next meeting. I can't give the honourable member a specific timeline, but as she knows, the government has committed to report regularly to Parliament on the update. I would like to hope that we will be able to make an update before the summer recess, but as I said, I haven't had my first meeting, so I'm loath to make a firm commitment until I know the work streams in the action plan. And the government has funded the Parks Action Group with £500,000, and hopefully that will then leverage in extra funding from the various partners involved to promote the agenda that they are keen to embrace. Social deprivation was another point that the honourable member raised. I think he'll be aware of the Pockets Parks programme that the department has run in the past, £1 million. It would help, particularly with cases, I think, like the member for Great Grimsby. That helped fund 87 small green spaces, including, I think, 2 in his own particular constituency, including Frinton Pocket Park. I think that was a fantastic programme. I'm looking to see what lessons we can learn from that, whether that's an ability to replicate something like that in the future, but it was brilliant at targeting money to areas where there was higher social deprivation and removing those barriers to access. I'm conscious of time, Mr. Gates, and hopefully in this debate we've had today, I've been able to show to the committee that the government is taking this issue seriously, not least myself in the Parks Action Group. There is work happening. I think the honourable member is absolutely right to put these issues on the agenda front and forward. I look forward to working with him and other members to develop, I think, the green spaces that we all want our children to enjoy, not just for today, but for years to come.
The question is that this House has considered the provision of children's playgrounds. As many as are of that opinion say aye. Of the contrary, no. I think the ayes have it. Order, order.